Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Marriage Matters with Ken and Shar. So glad you're here. Hon, how you doing?
I'm wonderful, doing wonderful this morning.
Good. That's always great to hear. So, okay, this is really a fun little topic we got today.
It is. I love this topic.
We actually titled this One Spouse, Many Marriages, and you'll understand why pretty quick here. I want to start with just a quick illustration. It comes from the computer world. Most of you have computers. I turned my first computer on in 1992. I'll never forget it. A good friend of mine had been telling me for months, Kenny, you just can't believe what these things can do. They can save you so much time in your Bible study and sermon prep and research and all that. And
it was so difficult to learn the mouse, wasn't it?
Oh,
everything was like backwards.
Took me one whole night. I worked all night because we're not young. We were. Some of you guys out there, you've grown up in the computer world. But just learning how to use a mouse about drove me crazy.
It was just like backwards. I kept thinking it was a mirror I was looking at. Did anybody else have that experience?
No, I've talked to people that
It killed me. Yeah,
they're all goofy like me. But and now, isn't it weird? They've worked their way into every part of our life.
Every part of our life. Never would have dreamed.
So what happened was I bought my first one. It's called a 386. Pentium didn't exist at that time, and quad core and all that didn't even exist. And I remember getting it and loading it with the best Bible software that was out there. And man, I was in heaven. I was going to town. I could not believe how convenient it made research and Bible study, man.
It was wonderful.
No, it was great. So it was great until it wasn't.
Right.
Which took about 3 years. And new Bible software came out, and I bought the best I could, and then I found out my machine just couldn't run it. It was glitching and crashing, and so I did what everybody else told me to do: go spend $50 and put a little bit more memory on it, So I upgraded it, right, with a cheap little upgrade, which was awesome for about 6 months, and then I found myself in that same boat again. So that very same machine that one day I was just thanking God for, it became a source of such irritation.
It is.
I was ready to kick it across the floor, So I just threw it away and went down.
Put it in the attic.
Put it in the where we have all of our
other
aged out
computers we don't know what to do with.
So I went down to the store and bought the biggest, fastest machine I could, right? And man, there I was again in heaven thinking, this is just awesome, right? Until it wasn't again. And so I went through that same cycle, upgraded it some, and that only took me a little while before that wasn't working out. So I tossed it and bought my third version, and now I got to be 15 computer in, since 1990, maybe more. But here's the point. Those computers, we learned pretty quick, they come with hardwiring built in, right? And it can only do what it's hardwired to do. It has its limits. It reaches its max. And while it's doing what it's designed to do, it's really good.
It is. It's great.
But when the demands of the software world
or the internet, we didn't even have.
In the beginning, the internet didn't exist.
No, not like it does now.
No.
You didn't even have email.
Remember the old squawking handshaking when they beep and chirp and squawk?
Back in the day.
That's right. So the demands of the technical world, computers aged out fast. They just, what used to work and worked for a period of time, didn't just no longer work. They became frustrating to try to work with.
It was really a source of major frustration and irritation on our part to do what we wanted to do.
I got to where once that started happening, and my machine, I don't even mess with them now. I shut them down and go buy a new one.
It's not worth it.
So at any rate, here's the point. And you might be out there going, what in the world are these two talking about? Well, here it is. Marriage is not unlike that computer. At least ours hasn't been. When we married,
life is like the computers. Everything changes.
That's true.
And so marriage, like life,
has to change with life
too.
we built some hardwiring, right, hun, in our relationship early on.
How we did everything.
I mean, from how we resolved conflict, how we talked to each other, how we managed money, how we managed our intimate life, how we managed time, careers, hobbies, every little sphere of life out there, how you manage all those hats you wear as a couple, how you deal with all the different pieces of your life. That's your hardwiring. And you do it so that it works awesome. And our first couple, I mean, it was awesome, right? It was just, everything worked great. But what happened was life changed on us.
It did.
Careers became more demanding. I actually went through a career change, left the oil and gas industry and went into full-time ministry life, right? Then children came.
We already had, we had one, and one
time,
on the way when you went into full-time ministry.
So we had two pretty much back to back. So our life went through a very quick period of time where it changed radically. And what we discovered was the way we used to do things, the hardwiring that was in place early in our marriage was no longer working for us.
Right.
A couple examples. I used to play a lot of racquetball, and Charlene didn't mind me. It was no sweat in those early days of marriage for me to go get a pickup game or go do something and be home from work an hour and a half, 2 hours later after working out.
Before work or
something like that. But boy, you throw 2 kids in the mix and a heavy workload, and
no one has hobbies.
No, hobbies don't exist.
I used to say, if I don't have a hobby, you don't get a hobby.
So we found that if we would not have changed our hardwiring and jumped into a new way of doing life, that would be like buying the new computer with different hardwiring that's capable to run all the software of that day that it's in. We would have been in trouble quick. Now, the big joke now is when people ask how long Shar and I have been married, I look at them once in a while and I'll say, well, which time? Because we've been married 6 times to the same spouse, right? We think 6, might even be 7 by now, or might be in our 7th marriage. And what we mean by that is what is working for you will not work forever. I can't be that 19-year-old kid that I was when I got married. I can't function or think like that 19-year-old kid.
We don't even look.
We certainly don't look.
We don't even resemble ourselves when we were that age.
Well, that is too true.
So we are definitely not that person.
So we had to throw away what we think we know, right? And get into a whole new marriage. And if we had not done that, man, I'm telling you, we could have been stuck so many different places throughout this 46-year marriage that we're in.
And a couple times we did get stuck. And we were
a little behind.
We were behind throwing it away and realizing that our life now, we cannot do those same things.
Right.
And a lot of it was time management with us.
Now, a lot of you listening, you may want to just take a minute tonight when you get home and ask your spouse, hey, are we working okay? Is what we're doing working in the demands that we're facing in this day right now?
And usually you only add demands.
Right.
They usually aren't taken away.
No, life usually gets more complicated.
It usually does, especially in your career life, especially with children, and then the demands of the children. And then after they leave, you get a short break there that's pretty awesome. And then you have in-law children coming in, and then grandchildren.
You bet.
Which is all wonderful.
Yeah.
But
it changes
your time element. And that's what we found is when we have all these things we want to do, but yet these other things are a greater priority. We have got to negotiate what stays and what goes, or how much time in this area or time in this area.
Yeah. A couple examples, just to hang a little bit of flesh on it from our life. Again, marriage number 1, we were 19 years old. It was awesome, right? Kids. So we were about 3 years in, between year 3 and 4, when between pretty radical career changes and children, the way we were managing time and conflict resolution, and it just wasn't working. And you know that because we were more tense with each other than usual.
And we also threw our first home in there at the same exact time you went into full-time ministry.
Our first mortgage. Yep. So that's a lot going on. And we couldn't operate the same. No. And we finally understood that. So what we did And what we advocate that couples aren't afraid to do is to kind of toss everything up in the air, every sphere of life, which we'll talk about in a minute, and examine which ones are working and which ones aren't. We found things like money, how we manage money and how we view money and what we do with money had to change. Boy, you throw a couple kids in the mix.
And a home.
And your first mortgage. And I took a big cut in pay.
And you want a front yard.
Yeah,
I really wanted grass.
We wanted grass.
It took us a whole year to get grass.
Yeah. So if we'd have kept thinking about money the way we did when we were married, we spent every nickel we had and just had fun, went anywhere we wanted to go. We had a little bitty rental, and it was just a different life. And we could not stay that way. It was killing us, right? So that gave way. So now we're in marriage 2, and that probably gave way when I became a senior pastor. That changed my life pretty radically.
And that marriage lasted about 7-8 years. And we had 3 children by then. And then career change. Yeah. And it was much more taxing on both of us.
Yeah.
And our children were getting older.
With time, emotionally, there was burdens we bore at that point that we weren't used to bearing, and a schedule that was more demanding than it had been as an associate pastor. And so, and we found ourselves again in little less peace in our home, little less joy. And we realized we're not working now. Right. Everything from, and again, we'll go over these spheres in a minute, but you're talking areas of life like your intimate life. You have to think about it differently. When you go through an evolution like this into a new marriage, a lot needs to change. And I guess a lot of couples just never realize that they're behind, that life has been changing on them and they've not evolved. They are still the people they were 15 years ago.
Well, it's easy to do the things like you've always done them.
Yep.
Doing something new and different and changing is hard to do, especially when you have habits. This is easy. This is what we do on Saturday. This is what we do on Sunday.
Right.
This is what we do after work.
This is how we spend our money.
Is it exactly? This is how we go visit our friends and family out of town.
Our social life.
Right.
Yeah.
And then technology was thrown in there.
Yeah.
Which it's even worse now with technology, with games and TV watching, and then computer and phones. It requires everyone to check these areas of your life and see how you feel you're faring in there.
We jumped into, probably for us, marriage 4 or 5 with empty nest, right? And that changed everything. We found we had time, and so we could use time differently and do different things than we ever could before. We had to learn everything from communication habits, again, our intimate life, all of that. It had to change. Again, we're in one right now. We just recently, I think we jumped into a new marriage for us. We're still in the process, I think, of really kind of figuring out how to operate at a really high level, with me no longer grinding in that senior pastor role, having recently left that to just do marriage ministry
and at home.
Yes, I no longer go
from home.
Yep. Which is,
it's very different than it was before.
And I think, would you agree, Ben, that we found that a little more tension than we thought?
Well,
with me under your
the other day, Kenny said, sometimes I feel like I should just go get an office and work, so you'd be really happy to see me like you used to be when I came home every day. And I went, no, I don't want that, because I like him being at home. It's just the scheduling is hard for me since I'm such a predictable.
But she goes, you probably should go to the gym every day.
Or you could just like go work at Panera, a little bit when you're just studying and doing things. You could go there. Or it was funny. It was like, we did feel, I felt it.
You bet.
A difference of this marriage and how this new marriage is going to work. And it's been a year, and it's taken us all this whole year to try to get our bearings in it. How to work out with
it does take time
with these spheres of life that we have to go through, and look at each other and go, how are we doing in our social life? Yeah. Are you comfortable with where we're at in our social life? Do we need to change anything in our social life? Do we need to see more friends, or are we doing too much in our social life?
Exactly.
And to find a win-win with both partners and on each sphere that you have to work around.
Yeah, let's talk about these spheres a little bit as we turn a corner and start wrapping up. You may be thinking, okay, and I hope you are. I hope every couple's thinking, wow, maybe we were due for a new marriage 5 years ago, and that's possible for some of you, and maybe you need to start talking about that you've kept operating the same, but you've been through big changes in life, and your marriage isn't keeping up, and you're finding less joy, less peace, getting more difficult,
And
maybe stale, maybe just stale, right? And drifting apart.
You can't. It's okay because you can't change your spouse that you're married to, but you can change your marriage.
Yeah, absolutely. Which again, we're calling that the hardwiring, how you operate, right? Okay, so these spheres. The reason we're going to break this down into a manageable way of looking at married life is because some of you think, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about doing it different, doing a new marriage, which is big.
Getting excited.
Where do you even start? Right?
Exactly. Okay. How do you start?
It can be overwhelming.
This new thing.
We would get overwhelmed. We'd go, we got to start being different here. This isn't working real good. But it felt overwhelming where to start. So the way you want to do is look at a married life in what we call spheres. And Shawnee, jump in here. You've got we've mentioned some of them. There's a social sphere.
And we've got your financial life.
Yep.
You have your married life.
Right.
You have your intimate life.
Right. Your careers.
Your family life.
Work and labor.
Children, grandchildren. Your ministry life.
Which is how you use your gifts within the body of Christ. Right.
And then technology life.
Yeah.
And we said social life, and then your spiritual life.
Right.
And that's really at the center of the whole, all these spheres is your spiritual life.
We found that with each new marriage, particularly that arena, that sphere right there, our spiritual habits. And to be honest with you, if you really want to be specific, our prayer life, our together prayer life, not just me praying for our marriage or me having a prayer life or you having a prayer life, but a together prayer life where we're in agreement together concerning the things of God and the things in our life, right?
And where we're going in our spiritual life together as a couple. How are we most being able to be effectual and influential in the world together?
Right.
For Christ's kingdom here on earth.
Now, what we would do is you look at these different spheres. Now, you may find that 3 or 4, they're rock solid. Hey, we're not arguing over money. We have a vision here. We know what we were doing. We're on a good budget. This is working. Now our social life might be where some radical change needs to take place one way or the other. We need to start being more social, building community in our life, building relationships together, right? Or we're too busy.
Right.
We have got to spend time at home with our kids. It's that time of life right now.
Or is your social life crowding out your spiritual life?
Right.
Or your ministry life?
Right.
And those are the questions that you need to ask.
Some couples need to be more engaged in ministry life and giving back to your local church community and the people in your life, and others maybe are too busy. So these adjustments are what we're talking about, because the way you build your hardwiring last year, 2 years, 5 years ago, the way you operated, dear ones, it just may not be working today. And it would not be working because of different demands. Life is changing all the time.
Right.
We just went through COVID.
Right.
Do you know how many marriages made no adjustments?
And they didn't do well.
Nope.
I don't know. You might.
They're both home all the time. And they only found a big, 2-year ball of stress and difficulty in their home life, and they didn't respond. They did not evolve with that massive change in life. The ones that did great, maybe even found themselves coming closer together, being more unified, right? Others didn't do well.
The first 6 months of COVID with Kenny working from home, and I wasn't working because the company I worked for had shut down for temporarily. And we were both looked at each other and went, what do we do? It's no fun to go grab takeout.
Right, right.
So we started cooking at home, which we haven't done that in a long time because why cook for 2 people? But now
Yeah.
It totally changed us.
Yeah, big
We
time.
now cook at home almost every day, and we love it.
That was marriage number 6.
It was COVID wasn't
its
it
own.
was a whole it was its own animal for us.
So don't be afraid. Don't look at it just like you got to change everything. You may not have to. You're talking about tweaking within these different spheres of life, social life, money, spiritual habits, prayer life, all that stuff. And what comes out can be an entirely different marriage that's just rocking. I mean, that is really, really good. And it has responded to the demands of life at that time.
Well, I have a friend right now that broke her hip, and she fell, and it hurled her and her husband into a completely different marriage. He did relatively not a lot around the house. She did all the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry and such, meal planning, and all of a sudden she can't get up and walk.
That's a sphere we didn't mention.
He has to
your health.
help her to the restroom. All of a sudden the demands that have been put on him has multiplied 100-fold.
And they're going to have to do marriage different.
Will look different because life looks different.
Absolutely.
And if
it doesn't, if he doesn't evolve and her,
and he's frustrated,
they're going to be in trouble.
Right. And he's frustrated saying, I can't believe this happened. And she feels bad or whatever. You have to look at it. Okay, this is our marriage right now.
Yep.
Health does that to people.
Yep.
Or lack of health. When you have a new baby, the demands on the caregiver of the baby, which is usually the mother, has completely changed.
Yep.
And she needs help.
Yep.
And that marriage will change.
So there's a whole nother sphere we didn't talk about, is health. When your health changes, you have to change other parts of your life, right? So this is really big stuff. When you just stop and think about it, it's no fun being stuck and going unchanged when you should have changed 15 years ago or 10 years ago.
Or you're used to changing.
Yeah.
You're used to redoing. It's like doing a new budget every year.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, how are we doing our marriage this year?
We've gotten pretty used to responding like this now. Yeah. Well, here's the exciting thing. We serve a God who himself is always doing new things. New things can happen, guys.
He is doing new things
all the time.
He does. He doesn't keep things the same for his reasons, for our change in life.
Right.
So we can learn to change and adapt things. Even the seasons change. Every year they change. He is a God of change.
I love Revelation 21:5. He just identifies himself as, behold, I make all things new. That's how the attribute that he ascribes to himself. Behold, I'm the God who's making all things new. One of my favorite verses comes from Isaiah 43. In Isaiah's prophecy, Israel is just a mess and they need breakthrough so badly. And God gives a word to Isaiah. It says, behold, I'm going to do a new thing among you. It shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? Goes on to talk about not remembering the former things, right? Nor considering the things of old. Why? Because behold, I'm doing a new thing. I make a way in the wilderness and a path through mighty waters. And he gives them this wonderful promise there. So for all of our marriages, when it's time to move into a new thing, God can do it.
Let's just go. We have to leave the past behind.
Yep.
It's hard to do that at times, especially when family changes and you don't have that little 3 little kids, us 5 together. And the way we did Christmas, all those things change when you have 9 grandchildren, and there's 17 of us in our family now. And it's wonderful.
So don't be afraid of that change.
Wonderful, because that's what God's doing.
That change can lead to a great, exciting chapter in your marriage. I mean, we're in 6 or 7. I think we've got 1 or 2 more to go. Sadly, the last one, we've talked about this before, will be, I don't know how to be a great husband, nor Charlene knows how to be a great wife when one of us is dying. But we signed up for that 46 years ago when we said, I do. It was until death parts us. And so that last chapter is, okay, how do we do this? Great.
And we don't know yet.
And we don't know.
God will meet us there in that time.
Nope. Absolutely.
And he'll show us.
And he'll do a new thing and make a way through mighty waters,
and he will show us things we do not know.
Absolutely.
Because that's what he promises.
Amen. Hey, thanks for being with us during this episode. Hopefully this helps you guys. We're so glad you were in with us. And remember every single day that your marriage really does matter. God bless you.
Bye-bye.